Hey there, one of the questions we get all the time at KN Literary Arts is, if I'm planning to submit my book to traditional publishers, do I need to work with an editor first? Aren't those publishers going to give me an editor? And the answer is yes and no. So that's what I'm going to talk about in this video today. My name is Kelly Notaras. I have been a book editor in the US publishing business for over 20 years, and I bring all of that wisdom to you right here on this YouTube channel. So please hit the subscribe button and click the little bell icon so you never miss a video. I also have founded a company called KN Literary Arts. We are your one-stop shop to getting you from wherever you are right now to having that book in your hand. So visit us and schedule a call at knliterary.com. All right, so obviously I run a book editorial company and I am not a publisher. So how is it that I have a whole company of editors that don't work at publishers if as the situation goes, you get an editor when you get to a publisher? Well, the fact of the matter is, back when I started off in the book publishing business, that's about 25 years ago now, there was actually more time in the schedule for an editor to work on your book when it landed at the house. So they might see a book proposal that they felt like had potential, and they would buy the book proposal and then work with you to shape the material into a book they thought would really sell. Same goes for agents. So literary agents are your doorway into the big publishers in the US market. And they too spent a lot of time workshopping material with a client, editing the book proposal or the manuscript, depending on what genre of book it was, and getting it ready to submit to the publisher. Here's what has changed in the last 20 to 25 years. The publishers have consolidated. There are far fewer places to submit books. Books need to have kind of sort of an appeal that goes beyond maybe just the fact that they're a good book. The publishers are looking for authors who already have platforms and audiences in place. There's just a lot of changes that have happened in the way books are sold. It used to be that when I started in publishing, you walked into a bookstore to buy a book, right? And now almost 50% of books are purchased online. And so it's a different way that people find books, and the way that people promote them is very different. So long story short, what all of these changes have boiled down to for editors at publishing companies is they don't have time to be editing your book. They don't have time to get a book that's like, let's say 50% there and help hold your hand to get you that next 50%. They need the book, the proposal, to land on their desk in perfect shape. Because if it doesn't, then they look at it and they think, well, this could be a good book, but boy, that's going to be a lot of my evenings and weekends that I have to spend editing this to get it into shape. Because again, these days, publishers do not allow for the time for editors to be publishing on a daily basis, for editors to be editing on a daily basis. They're in meetings, they're talking about cover design and strategy and marketing and PR, and all these other parts of the book process have now fallen onto the editor's plate. So what happens to the author who by themselves can't necessarily get the book 100% because they're not in the publishing business? They don't necessarily know what's selling these days. They're not watching the trade magazines and seeing what books are being acquired. How is it that somebody like you can get that proposal in just absolute perfect shape so that the agent says yes and then the publisher says yes? Well, enter editors. This is what we do now. Unfortunately, the onus and the burden of the finance has fallen to the author. You have to make an investment, of course, up front on your book or proposal to work with an editor before you get an agent and a publisher. But it is often worth it. If you're truly aiming toward a big traditional publisher, I have to say, I think these days it's pretty rare that somebody is going to write that book proposal themselves and not have a professional hand in it and have it be picked up by a publisher. So I work with authors sometimes, big time authors who have big platforms, who have done big things in the world, and they still come to KN asking for help getting that proposal pulled together, because at that point in their career, they know from talking to friends, etc., that it has to be perfect. They have one shot to get it into the publisher and to get a big advance, and it needs to be great. So should you do this? Should you invest in hiring an editor? The answer is it's really up to you, and there are different factors you need to take into consideration. If you feel really strongly that your book must be published by a traditional publisher, if you're not willing to go the alternate route, which these days is totally viable, which would be to self-publish the book, sell a bunch of copies, and catch the attention of publishers, happens every single day. Publishers are acquiring self-published books that are working every single day. So that is your hack if you want to get into a big publisher, is to self-publish. But if you're like, I don't want to do that, I absolutely want this book to be good enough to be bought by a publisher straight out of the gate, your best shot is to work with a professional who's done it before, who understands the industry, who is in their career is books, right? So yes, it's going to be an investment. It can be, anything from, a couple $1,000s to, $10,000 to get a book proposal or, a manuscript edited. It really does, it costs money because these people are professionals, right? They're making their living in the book business, helping people like you. So you then have to ask yourself, is it worth it to me? Is that worth it for me? And sometimes the answer is going to be yes, and other times it's going to be no. Again, it's always a good idea to have your book edited if you're self-publishing. I'm not saying this means that you can self-publish and not have your book edited, because the editing really does make a difference about how many people are going to read it. And for your book to actually then have the success I was talking about that would catch the attention of the publisher, it has to be great. People have to read it and talk about it and tell their friends about it, and word of mouth has to spread. So one way or the other, it's important to make sure your book is great. Now, if you're writing fiction and you are a writer at your heart, and maybe you're already a professional writer, you're somebody who is, a writer for a living or has been roped into writing because you've got such writing skill, then maybe you can do it on your own. You will know that. You will know whether you are a good writer. If you are that kind of writer, you're somebody who probably has heard that over the course of your life. People have told you over and over, wow, you're a great writer. Or again, in a job that wasn't related to writing, suddenly people are putting writing tasks on your desk because you're such a good writer and you can do it quickly and, have a success with your writing. Those are some indicators that maybe you do have the writing quality that could get you an agent and then a publisher without having to work with an editor. But if you are not a writer by trade, if you don't know if you're a great writer, if you know you have a story you must tell, then I do recommend considering making the investment in working with an editor. My pro tip here is to find an editor who edits for a living. You need to be able to ask them for credentials and references. Make sure that they are somebody who's not just thrown their shingle out and called themselves an editor. You want someone who's actually already doing this and really knows how to put books together. With that, I will say best of luck to you. Let us know in the comments below, does it feel like an editor is the right thing for you before you get your book into the world, or are you going to do it on your own? Whichever way you go, I wish you the absolute best of luck and hope you just keep writing.